launching the Scottish Football Zone with all the build-up and reactions.
Hello, very welcome to the last ever show talking about domestic matters. Obviously, we'll be back on Thursday and at the weekend as well for the Scottish Cup final between the Dunfermline and Celtic. But we thought we would come on and talk about the weekend's games. It's been a quiet weekend. Nothing's been happening in the life of Scottish football. We'll get to the other games tomorrow, I think, because I think the big talking point is the Celtic game, Celtic and Hearts. And before we kind of debate the game and what went on in the park and outside the park, maybe not outside the park, maybe just keep it inside the park. Well done to Celtic for winning another league title under Martin O'Neill, 3-1. Tonight we'll be joined by Ethan, Robbie and Graham. We've got a full house as well because Reagan will be coming on as well to chew the fat over the games of the weekend. So, I suppose we'll begin with Mr. Collins. Robbie, what did you think of the game? Or obviously, we'll talk about the incident after we talk about the main event, because I think it's been a bit of a sideshow, the game, because it was a nervy game for the both sets of fans.
HEARTS. No, sorry, Graham. I'm buzzing that my hair's saved. That's the most important thing coming away for the weekend. But no, look, congratulations to Celtic on their first successive league title. Very well deserved. Martin O'Neill went on Talk Sport in October and specifically said it was Hearts' time to win the league. Well, he stepped into the dugout and proved that to be incorrect, because Celtic have found a way yet again to win the league in what was actually a very fascinating game. A very fascinating season, Michael, and it's nowhere yet. You mentioned we're going to be here for the Scottish Cup final. We'll, of course, be here for the playoffs as well between Partick Thistle and St Mirren on Thursday and Monday, so that should be interesting as well. But look, congratulations to go to Celtic before you even dive into anything else. The fact that the team managed to muster that amount of courage, that amount of fight, that amount of mentality to come back when we've seen some of the mental results that's happened this season. Turning up to Fir Park, getting played after Park, going to Tannadice, losing no once but twice, leaving it late against so many teams, having so many fight backs, the likes of Kilmarnock away at Rugby Park, that one always sticks out. Just having everything that happened to Celtic this season on and after Park, and yet they've still managed to muster up just enough to get a league title out of the line the final day of the season. I mean, you've got to congratulate them. I'm sure, Ethan, you had a very, very good weekend at the game. For the most part, it was actually a very entertaining game. I quite enjoyed it. I thought Hearts were good in the first half, especially. I think you said it, Graham, I think Hearts really stuck to the game plan well. Frustrated Celtic at quite a lot of times. I mean, Shatton got that goal. I thought there might have just been a chance that Hearts done it. And then I think, as Ethan was mentioned before we came on, when the penalty gets given, it kind of spooks Hearts a wee bit. If you're going 1-0 up at Celtic Park, Celtic are probably the ones feeling frightened, but just that lift of having that goal for the penalty, it gave Celtic all the momentum they can need, and Celtic pushed on, done it in some style. Of course, Michael will speak about the stuff later going after the park, but you kind of need to keep it on the park now and say well done to Celtic for what's been another somehow amazing season for them, that I'm sure by next week we'll be coming on talking about a double, never mind just the league title. So you've got to give them credit. And also credit to Hearts for keeping up the fight in the first place. I mean, named it would have thought that everybody gave them the Aberdeen talk last season, and Derek McInnes. It's going to be a real tough one to take on the players and the manager especially, but he's got to go again next season, and if anything's proved this season, anything can happen.
Graham, come to you first. Disappointing for Hearts, but you've got to kind of build on that from that season now.
Yeah, I've said that on my own TikTok page. The already feeling that I've got is pride for the team and the manager this season. They've been absolutely fantastic, giving us everything. I think to finish 7th last season, be a relegation battle, I never thought we'd go down. But it wasn't great last season. There was a real disconnect between the fans, the players and stuff. This season, it's completely flipped. Like, I don't think the connection's been stronger, to be honest. It's been fantastic this season. The job McInnes has done has been nothing short of sensational. To go to the last game with a chance to win the title was just absolutely fantastic. And these players deserve so much credit. I thought the reaction when they got back to Tynecastle on Saturday with the fans at Tynecastle was fantastic, and they deserved it as well. You know, and I do think that, yes, Rangers and Celtic will probably think will get stronger. They will probably have to rebuild, both of them again. But Hearts don't need to do that much. You know, we've got a very good squad there. We'll strengthen again in the summer. We've still got players to come back that really didn't play a lot this season. And it's Tony Bloom's first season. When he came in, he talked about disrupting Scottish football. Well, he's done that in season 1. Yes, winning the league are amazing, but this is like 1 year of a 10-year plan. And I genuinely think that we'll be up there again challenging. I heard Derek McInnes actually today, and he said that this needs to be the norm for Hearts, and he's right. I just think we're going to get stronger and stronger and better and better. And I already can't wait to see what we're going to do in the summer in terms of signings and how we're going to do next season. Because I just think the future is very bright for Hearts. And I talk about connection. I don't think it's been stronger at Hearts just now. Everything's running really smoothly. I just think it's so exciting going forward.
Can I just say, by the way, but before we sort of, sorry, cut in there, Michael, but I think it's important that there's no many teams during the season, right? Well, I say they deserve more, but Hearts deserve so much more than they've walked away for this season. They've challenged so well for the league. Of course, they've been put at 2 cups, but if you're arguing one team deserves something big out of this season, it's got to be Hearts. Hearts have kept up that fight, got some massive, massive wins when everybody wrote them off. I mean, there's been some serious times where people have said they're going to crumble and this and that, but if any team have walked away for this season I don't want to say underachieved, because what they achieved in the league is absolutely massive, and Graham, rightly so, is so proud of their group of players. But if any team deserve to walk away with silverware this season, it's got to be Hearts for everything in the fight they've put up.
I mean, you've got to look as well, Ethan, that Hearts has been up there in merit from September, and obviously Celtic took it away from them in the final day of the season, but all credit must go to Hearts. By the way, I'm going to answer that very quickly. I don't think we can accuse anyone of cheating as well, or being biased or whatever. I don't know what you're talking about. If you explain in fact, maybe not explain yourself in better detail.
Well, we talk about bias, Michael. His next comment's biased. He thinks Falkirk are going to win the league next season.
I know, exactly. Well, I don't think that actually, the Falkirk feel and all that kind of thing. Ethan, big congratulations to you and Celtic and Martin O'Neill's doing that again.
Yeah, and an excellent achievement by Martin O'Neill and those Celtic players, because throughout points in this season, everyone had written Celtic off, including their own supporters. But that squad kept going. They kept believing that they could do it, and they get the ultimate reward at the end. I think Kieran Tierney, Cal McGregor, James Forrest, those kind of players spoke on how it was the most joyful title win, and I think it was for a lot of Celtic fans as well, because this is the first time they've ever won every game post-split, all 5, and this team have done it, far from the best Celtic team I think we've seen in recent years. But as you guys have all touched on, all credit to Hearts. This season wouldn't have been what it has been, and so great, and attracted so many people from outside of Scotland to watch our game, and especially that game on Saturday. If it wasn't for the work that the players, Derek McInnes, Tony Bloom, had put in across the season, and they were probably, I know it sounds stupid to say because Celtic have won the league, but they were probably the most consistent team across the course of the season. And if Celtic maybe hadn't got a decision here or there in the last few games, then Hearts easily could have won the league. It comes down to the finest of margins, and it made such an excellent spectacle in the final day that it was the 2 teams that could have won it that were playing. I think 1991 was the last time when Aberdeen went to Ibrox and Rangers won, and obviously it was years before then we last seen a team outside of the Glasgow to win the league, and hopefully we maybe see that change in recent sort of years to come. And I think Graham's right to be confident about Hearts' chances in the years going forward, because Tony Bloom's proven at clubs, especially Union Saint-Gilloise, the perfect example that he can stick to his word and what he says about the 10-year project and stuff like that. He's got evidence to back it up, and I know it was a really disappointing weekend for Tony Bloom because Union Saint-Gilloise were thrashed 5-0 off Club Brugge in the Belgian league, and looks like they will win that league after Union Saint-Gilloise obviously won it last year. But yeah, I think the Hearts will certainly come again. And yeah, like Graham said, there's so many players, it seems, within that squad that haven't really realised their full potential in Edinburgh yet. So, you know, I'm glad that Graham's reflection on the game, and in fairness, immediate reflection on the game, is one of pride for Hearts. And I imagine as the dust settles, that'll be the reaction of all the Hearts supporters, because they should be proud of what their team has put in this season, despite having no silverware to show for it.
I mean, Graham, Hearts started I thought Hearts started the game on Saturday in the front foot, and obviously Shanklin got the goal. But I mean, I think the goal was coming a bit before that. I mean, Hearts had a few chances, and they had most of the ball in that, most of their possession in that first half.
Yeah, I thought McInnes got his tactics spot on. I thought he got everything absolutely right. I mean, I said before the game that we can't concede early, and thankfully we didn't do that. I thought we defended really well. I thought the wide areas we managed to keep the likes of Yang and Tunetsky quite quiet. But I think what he did really well was, and they mentioned it during commentary, we let Austin Trusty have the ball, and Austin Trusty doesn't want the ball. So Hearts just let him have it and say, right, you try and dictate the play, which you can't do. And I thought we really dictated a lot of that game, probably more than I thought we would. And when Shanklin scores, I mean, set pieces are a strong point for us. I mean, leaving probably one of the most deadly strikers in Scotland alone at the back post was a weird decision from Celtic, but it's a great header. And I think, I said this to my laddie as well, we had to get to half-time at 1-0 up. Because I think if we had done that, it's a very different story. But of course, losing that equalising goal not long after that was disappointing. And it's a handball. I mean, there's been a lot of contentious handballs this season, but it's a handball from Kizridis, no complaints with that. And in the second half, I thought, do you know what? I think we've still got a chance here, because we are just trying to get forward. But it wasn't to be. But I thought Hearts played really well. You know, I think for me, probably the biggest turning point was the fact that Benny went off. When he goes off injured, I think it really killed us a little bit. The subs just didn't work. But listen, fair play to him. He's done a fantastic job.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Graham. And I think watching and being at the game, I think it was one of the best. I was thinking in the first half, even when it was nothing each, I was thinking it was one of the best away performances I had seen by a Premiership team at Celtic Park. Just what Hearts needed from the game and how well they had set up. Like you said, sort of pressing almost everybody but Liam Scales and Austin Trusty. I think there was a point in the first half where Austin Trusty had double the amount of touches of any other player on the pitch, and the second was Liam Scales. And it was much similar to the way that I think Hearts set up when they faced Wilfred Nancy's Celtic at Celtic Park. Obviously, Austin Trusty was right side of a back three then, but still right side of a defence this time. And Celtic just didn't have the sort of players in those areas that Austin Trusty was playing to really break Hearts down. It was a really high line, but not a high press, and it really made it difficult for Celtic. And I think their best outlet was Kieran Tierney making the late runs down the left-hand side, because Celtic wingers weren't really getting any joy out of Kingsley or Milne especially at all. And obviously I think that's where the sort of penalty comes from, when Kieran Tierney breaks down the left. And yeah, I agree. I think I said it before. If Hearts had got to half-time 1-0 up, then I think they'd probably go on to do the job. I didn't really see Celtic doing enough to get 2 goals at that point. And I was actually, even at nothing each, I thought Martin O'Neill had to try and change that back three at that point. Obviously, he does it later on in the second half when Celtic need a goal. He brings Osmond on for, I think it was I can't remember who he took. It was Austin Trusty, I think he took off. But I thought he had to do that earlier, and especially when Hearts get the goal. But obviously Celtic fortunately get the equaliser just before the break, and then really unfortunate with the Benny Beningame injury, because at that point Dan McInnes has already used one of his sub windows to bring Frankie Kent on to deal with Kelechi Iheanacho, and then he has to use a second, which means he has to compile all three of his other substitutes into one sub window, which is obviously a nightmare scenario and one that you can't really prepare for. And I thought all 5 Celtic substitutions were excellent. I thought all of them came on and really contributed to something. Kelechi Iheanacho, Callum Osmond directly probably contribute to goals. James Forrest brought his experience and sort of know-how in these situations where Yang, I thought, had one of these poorer games as of late. Dane Murray came on to play his part and defend him when Celtic went back to back 4. Marcelo Sarachi brought the energy he usually does and has a big part to play in the second goal as well. So, yeah, Celtic were excellent in the second half, and you could see the sort of Hearts dropping back in and Celtic getting more space, and it felt like sort of a matter of time before they got that goal. But even when they got that second goal, it felt like it was far from done, and Hearts obviously had chances to go and get an equaliser, and then they throw everyone forward, and that's when Celtic get the third goal to secure the league title, which I think for a lot of Celtic fans they never thought was going to come.
I'm sorry, that comment is hilarious, by the way, for David in the chat. Slightly unrealistic, but I can't wait. Graham, make you buzzing to see Scott McTominay, the Ballon d'Or nominee, rock up at Tynecastle next season.
Absolutely, bring it on me.
He'll go right nice next to Bliss, but on that midfield.
Graham, I was just going to say to you, when the team lines came out, I was quite surprised to see Braga on the bench on Saturday. Were you?
Yeah, I was really surprised. I think he had been carrying a knock, which is why he wasn't starting. I think he's pretty much started every game this season without a break. So it's understandable. I actually thought, for probably the first half, I actually thought Kabore played well. I think, obviously, we've looked at what Chermiti did against Austin Trusty, the physical presence, and we've gone, right, put Kabore up against Trusty, and I actually thought Kabore did well first half. And then kind of second half, he fell out of it a little bit. But, you know, Braga came on, he had one probably decent run in the second half, but nothing really fell his way. But again, he's been phenomenal this season. Like, Player of the Year for a reason. He's been outstanding. I hope he doesn't go in the summer. But again, money talks. If somebody comes in for him, he'll probably go. But what a first season he's had. Coming from Norwegian second division, the amount of goals he's got has been phenomenal. But yeah, when I saw the team sheet, I was thinking, I'm not sure about that, but I think it probably was the right call because he wasn't fully fit.
Even when you saw the Celtic lineup, were you surprised, or that Martin O'Neill stuck with the same, starting 11 from Wednesday for Park?
No, I wasn't. I think I said on here that I thought he was going to start with the same team. I didn't think Sebastian Tenecki was great at Fir Park, but just haven't got a lot of options in those areas. Celtic, it's that last sort of attacker, that third attacker that you're picking is at this point basically the best of a bad bunch in terms of performance level. And Tenecki's shown that he is capable of putting in performances, but a pretty inconsistent basis, and I didn't think he was great either on Saturday, and that's why Kelechi Iheanacho comes on, and I think you've seen that just gave Celtic an immediate lift in the game, his quality, and if Celtic could get him fit enough, and I don't think it'll ever be the case, unfortunately, to play 90 minutes, then they could be a big problem for opposition defences, but I think they'll just have to deal with him coming off the bench for the meantime. The one surprise, obviously, was the change to the squad that he brings Callum Osmond back onto the bench for Rio Hatate, who doesn't get a Celtic Park send-off, and if he is going to leave, which I think is looking very likely, but I thought Callum Osmond was excellent. He looked really sharp for someone who's not played in such a while, and he seems like he will be a talent for Martin O'Neill or whatever manager it is to lead Celtic forward. And Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney have obviously shown a lot of belief in them across the two spells to give them minutes, which Brendan Rodgers wasn't able to afford them. And I think Callum Osmond said something along the lines of he's been a massive figure in changing his life, Martin O'Neill, and the opportunities he's given Osmond. And yeah, he looks like he could be a talent, obviously involved in the second goal, and then gets the honour of walking in the third. So yeah, an excellent moment for him, and I think he could be a big asset to Celtic in the future if he can stay fit, because obviously when a younger player gets a bad injury, there always is concern that that's maybe going to sort of plateau their development in their career.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, Celtic won the league. Martin Andy will stay for another season or two. Ethan?
I don't think so. I think Celtic will go and get another manager, but you never know with Celtic. We've seen this kind of thing in the past, and but Martin O'Neill has done an excellent job since in both spells. The amount of games he's won with that group of players, which we've seen other managers fail to win games and go on runs of 4. Wilfred Nancy went on without or 4 straight losses, and you could make the case that Celtic could be on for a treble come Saturday had Martin O'Neill been in charge since his first spell, because obviously he got them to the League Cup final. And credit to St Mirren for taking apart Wilfred Nancy's team, but I think it would have been a different challenge had Martin O'Neill been at the helm. And obviously I think Saturday will still be a difficult game. Dunfermline are going to pose their own challenges under the management of Martin O'Neill's old midfielder, but yeah, I think that's how good he's been. And of course, he doesn't bring the sort of modern day tactical insight to his coaching, but he's been such a great figurehead at Celtic in both spells. And I think he's someone that a lot of the fans would want to play a part in the future of Celtic Football Club, whether that be some people will say in the dugout or maybe upstairs. But I think Celtic probably need to get a manager in that's got that tactical sort of background, because it is such a big part of the modern game. And there has been lots of games this season that Celtic easily could have lost. And, you know, we're talking about Hearts are going to strengthen and Rangers you expect to strengthen as well. That's going to be a difficult challenge next season, and Celtic need to step up as well in their recruitment of players as well as their next manager. And I think I've said it a few times on here, I think Jens Berflasku is the perfect fit for Celtic, but whether that's going to sort of go ahead is another question.
Just when you're talking about the sort of work that Martin O'Neill's done, and you know whether he stays at the club or not, I think the more likely route is he probably goes upstairs, even and probably goes into a more club role, less sort of tactical on the pitch stuff. But it's interesting because and rightly so, Martin O'Neill deserves all the credit. But I wonder what do you think is going to happen with Sean Maloney going forward? Because Sean's obviously got a lot of credit for people as well for maybe the tactical insight he's putting into games and the work that he's doing at the club. I mean, the guy's just helped you win a league. So, I mean, what do you think happens with Sean going forward?
I think Sean Maloney, the same breath as Martin O'Neill, will have a part to play at Celtic, whether that's in the first team or maybe going back to the role he had previously as player pathway development coach or something like that. And I think from what we've heard is that Sean Maloney's working extra hours, just doing loads of bits of work all around the football club. And I think for a club of Celtic size, it needs to be a little bit better organisation than that, and you know, get the bodies in and the experts in each role. But I think Sean Maloney and Martin O'Neill and probably all of that coaching staff following him as well deserve a place at the football club going forward. But obviously it depends. Maybe the next coach that Celtic go for comes in like Ange Postecoglou and just keeps all of the coaches there, or maybe they have their own guys to bring in. We'll see what happens. But I think Celtic, if they were preparing well, should already be well down that road to deciding who their next manager is, and probably should already be in contact with them, nearing pen being put to paper and being unveiled to the Celtic fans, I would think, if it's not going to be Martin O'Neill that's in charge next season.
Graham, I said at the top of the show, Hearts would need to build on that from that season. I think would you agree that Hearts has set the benchmark as well, but also as well, what would you say to the maybe Celtic and Rangers fans? Because I don't know about you guys, but I've been seeing a lot of things on Twitter about X about the only reason Hearts are doing well this season is because Celtic and Rangers has been that poor, and the Hearts and Celtic and Rangers has went to Hearts level. Do you think that's a bit unfair?
What do you think? What do you think I'm going to say to that, Michael?
Well, yeah. I suppose that was a very stupid question I've asked, but yeah, but I would like to hear your explanation about that.
No, 100%. But I think, yes, okay, Rangers and Celtic have not been great. We all know that. But if that's the case, which obviously it has been, why are Hibs not up there? Why are Aberdeen not up there? Why are United not up there? Only Hearts have challenged because we've been very consistent. Again, I say this all the time about recruitment, but I think Hearts' recruitment this season has been fantastic. You never know how it's going to go. And I kind of think, as much as I don't like playing in the early rounds of that Premier Sports Cup, I think it actually benefited us this season not being in Europe enough in the Premier Sports Cup because it gave guys like Braga, Kizridis and the new guys a chance to kind of have a few games under the belt before the season started, and they had momentum from that. And I think that really worked. So I just think the job that's been done this season has been fantastic. You win your first couple of games, you beat Aberdeen first game of the season, you go to Tannadice, you win 3-2 with a last-minute goal. That builds momentum. And momentum is massive in football, as we all know. And we just kept on going from strength to strength. The players got confidence, the manager got confidence, the fans started to get behind it. So as much as Celtic Rangers were not great, Hearts had to react to that, and I think we did that. And I think in terms of the summer, I know that we've already got at least 2 players in. We've got George McPake coming in, who'll be really good. We've got the guy Tom Renault as well, who's been in a couple of games. And we're going to sign at least another 3 or 4 players. Who leaves? I don't know. You're looking at guys like Alan Forrest will probably go. I thought Blair Spittle would go in the summer and maybe January. But now, given what he's done this season, I'd actually like him to stay. But I just think we will keep building. The only thing I will say again is what I said earlier is about Claudio Braga and Kizzy. If we get offers for them, if it's decent, they might go. But again, we'll get decent money for them. Because Jamestown and the Tony Bloom stuff, we will get decent money for these guys. So I just think we'll build on that. And I think most of these players that are here now will be here next season. Now they've had a taste of that and how close you've got, they'll want to go again. McInnes has said that already today. He said, now that we've had that, we want to go again. And I just think we'll keep going. Again, it'll be difficult because Celtic will get stronger, Rangers will get stronger. But we're in such a strong position now. And again, something that's not been talked about, we've got Champions League qualifiers to look forward to. I mean, we might not get into it, but we've got these massive games to look forward to. And again, I think that just builds momentum as well. So I'll keep saying what I've said already. I think the signs are very, very good for Hearts. And I actually did see something on X, which I quite liked. An Aberdeen fan, I don't know him, but he posted on X about Aberdeen fans laughing at Hearts. And he actually said, honestly, Hearts are so far ahead of Aberdeen right now, they're in a different universe to us. And he's right. We are so far ahead of them. I think we're ahead of Hibs. We're ahead of a lot of teams just now. We'll get stronger. I'll probably get proved completely wrong, but I honestly think we'll get stronger.
It's not easy to get ahead of them when they've got the worst manager in the league in the dugout. But no, just on what you said, Graham, it is interesting because something that not many people are talking about as well is this is season 1 of the Hearts team being together. Teams only get stronger the more they play. Absolute rogue shout for David there with Hearts in the Champions League. I mean, that's Graham's dream right there. But look, it wouldn't surprise me. Like, the team's going to get better because they're going to get stronger together. The more time you play with your teammates, you're going to get better. You're going to have that resilience, that bond that you need in a team. This is, again, as Graham mentioned, it's season 1 of this group of players being together. They're only going to get more signings. It wouldn't surprise me, Graham, and I think it depends who you get in the Champions League draw. I think I've seen a few teams floated about already for like the sort of project pots of who you could get. But it wouldn't surprise me if Tony Bloom flung the handbags at getting his in, because the just reward if you get in, it's 40 million quid guaranteed if you can get into the Champions League. So what if Tony Bloom just goes in the summer, well, let's splash out, get a few big players, improve the squad big time, go for this Champions League run, see what happens.
Well, if you look at the fact we signed a Jew for 1.7 million, he's not been fit for half the season. He's to come back in. You've got Islam Chesnikov, hasn't played a lot of football. Rogers Mattle's not played a lot of football. I think we probably will. I think you're right. I think Hearts might go again and say, do you know what? Let's spend a bit more money. And that just makes us even better. I mean, generally, if someone had said to me at the start of the season, you're going to split the old firm and get Champions League qualifiers, I'd have snapped a hand off for that. This has been like an absolute dream. yes, winning the league would have been incredible. I would have absolutely loved it to actually see Hearts win a title. But I have a firm belief, again, I'll get clipped for this, but I have a firm belief that I believe I will see Hearts win the league in my lifetime. I really believe that. And I think we've just shown that we can compete. And I think, yes, to do that over the course of a season is difficult, but I don't think the club's been in a stronger position than it is now. I really don't.
There's no reason why Hearts don't finish second again. Let's not forget, we've been saying Rangers are going to bounce back for the last 5 years, and yet they've got progressively worse over the last 5 years. So there's nothing to suggest that Hearts aren't going to become the regular second place team in the league. We'll just need to see how it goes. But you're right, Graham, they will be up there.
Yeah,
well,
I think
we've beat Celtic twice this season, beat Rangers 3 times, beat Hibs 3 times. That's not happened for I don't know how long. So again, the memories that we've had, the records that we've broken, our record points total. Again, the players will look at that and go, right, we want to go a step further. I just think that brings so much belief.
Should probably win in Paisley at some point, but
yeah, no, that's a disappointment for me. But you won't be in the Premier League to take points off next season anyway.
Oh,
Sorry, mate, I had to get a dig in for your Hearts thing earlier on, mate.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Michael.
No,
I was just going to say that I
Yeah.
think Graham said there about Hearts getting the record points tally, and of course they were aided by the fact that Celtic and Rangers had what you would say by at least Celtic's standards and some Rangers standards in past seasons, poor seasons. But I think a lot of that was down to the pressure Hearts were putting on early in the season, because I don't think Brendan Rodgers left Celtic because the Rangers were doing well or anything like that. He left because they lost the Hearts, and he felt that he didn't have the sort of tools to get back in, I believe. And obviously that gets on to the Wilfred Nancy appointment and stuff like that. So I think you've got to say that Celtic and Rangers underperforming as part and parcel with Hearts doing well. I don't think it's one exists because of the other, so to say. I think they both can coexist, and I think that's what's happened. And I think it's an excellent opportunity, and there's loads of players in that Hearts squad, like Matto, one that I think has been really built up, and I think the sort of when Hearts signed him, he was meant to be the one that was going to be the best, and we've not really seen him yet. So I feel like a pre-season for him, and like Chesnikov, as Graham mentioned, even a player like Kabori, I think he could come back from a pre-season looking like a completely different player. And that's not to say he's been poor this season, but you feel like there's more to come from a lot of that Hearts squad, whereas Celtic and Rangers, I don't think you could say the same, but obviously they have greater spending power at the moment, which is why people think the Hearts may be phased out, but I don't think so. I think Hearts will be here to stay, and will at least have something to say in terms of competing for a title next season.
Reagan has joined us as well, and we're like, Reagan likes to enter, with a big fanfare and all that. But guess what? You're not going to get that on a Monday night. You only get it on a Friday night. Celtic's won the league on Saturday. You were at the game, Reagan, before we move on to what happened after the game, quite ugly scenes actually, and you were involved in some of the scenes. And you weren't on the park, why let's put it that way. But, yeah,
it was he ran out to Derek McInnes, I heard.
yeah, smashed his phone. But what did you make of it overall?
It was
Reagan.
crazy, Michael. I thought. I did only see the second half, to be honest, Michael. But
told you he was late for everything.
Were you in the toilet for the first half or something?
No, I had to get the bus down, Graham, so I just took my time. I watched the first half in the house, then I got the bus. But no,
you can tell he supports Partick Thistle, can you?
No, it was for the different miles, Robbie.
Queen's Park was my train.
Yeah, again, Michael.
Queen's Park wasn't playing.
Chris Parker not playing the next season, but I thought Celtic played really well. I thought, to be honest with you, Michael, I thought Hearts were probably going to win the game, and when they went 1-0 up, I was actually just getting to the stadium, and I just heard Celtic's penalty, and then I thought second half, I thought Celtic played really well. So I think in general, I think Graham can be a little disappointed, because I'm glad to say, Graham, I thought probably 2 or 3 minutes to go, I felt like Celtic weren't going to win the game. So I felt like it was going to end a 1-1 draw. But Michael, there was people jumping over me to get on the pitch at full time. It was crazy. It was just something else. But I was I mean, as I said to you on the phone earlier, I was booing people going on the pitch. It was terrible, and there were so many people around me booing Phil supporters going on the pitch. It was shocking to see. Shocking.
It's funny how for so long everything's been about penalty Rangers, and now it's suddenly penalty Celtic every bloody week.
Excuse me, Graham. I was listening to a different radio show this evening, Graham, and I heard that Hearts have not. I know it's terrible.
That's shocking.
Shocking.
Michael no pay my £500 wage tonight for coming on here.
So that Graham's just that.
I heard that Saturday was the first time this season that a penalty's been awarded against the Jambles. So
well, it's always going to come out.
All these conspiracy theories, Graham, that things have been awarded to Celtic. I can also say, Graham, as well, that probably the Highbees shouldn't have had a goal on 2 weeks ago on Sunday. And Graham, I don't know if you remember the game, but Rangers played Hearts at Ibrox, and it was a clear handball from Shankland. And Shankland
Reagan's brought his receipts.
Shankland even admitted himself, Graham. So.
I said it at the time. I said it was a handball. I've no issue with it. I mean, I've said it so often this season. The handball rule. If something is something, I know that they have these meetings and stuff before the season starts and stuff. Willie Collum has to actually get this handball rule sorted, because nobody knows what a handball rule is anymore. It's ridiculous, and it's every week. I mean, that one yesterday for Man United was embarrassing. I mean, seriously, how is that not a handball?
Has anybody seen the? I know it wasn't a handball, but it was a penalty. Has anybody seen the one at Kilmarnock yet against Dundee? What an absolutely horrendous decision to give the penalty.
Was that the one on the young lad, the foul on Tishbola, was it?
I think so.
Yeah, I thought that was a bit questionable. You couldn't really see. I think maybe that we just didn't have the camera angles to really decipher whether there was contact or not. So I think once they gave it at the time, it would be difficult to overturn. But that's what people will say about the VAR light and stuff like that, that we've not got the camera angles to make proper decisions and stuff like that. And that was probably the same case for Wednesday. And I think Celtic have certainly had the rub of the green when it comes to the decisions in these last 3 games, you would say. But I think most of the time, of course, across the course of the season, these things usually balance out. But that doesn't take away from the fact that in one-off games that they can be massive. And obviously, if you look at the 2 recent games, if Celtic don't get that penalty at Fir Park, then Hearts win the league. So it really was that decision that's ultimately changed it all. But
yeah,
just the salt of the
I don't.
Sorry.
See that argument? I don't agree with that, because think about all the chances Hearts have had in recent games. You know, I don't like keep bringing it back to like Paisley and stuff, but you look at the 1-0 loss. You look at the loss away at Kilmarnock. You look at the times Hearts have dropped points. I mean, Celtic have dropped just as many, by the way. It's a point. I get how frustrating VAR is. I mean, Willie Collum's got people at the back door sitting doing that, trying to replicate home balls. Like, I get it, but Hearts didn't win the league because Hearts couldn't go away to some of these grounds and pick up points, so that's why they didn't win the league. Of course, VAR plays a part in it, and of course, VAR decisions can be frustrating. Some have went against us, by the way, and it's very frustrating. But Hearts had chances to go away to these grounds and pick up points.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with
You've got
you.
guys like Gary Lineker in that talking about that decision last week, then you know you've got a big problem.
No, of course,
But-
by the way, I'm not trying to disregard that decision at Wednesday night, by the way, that was horrendous. And the internet blew up about it, but the Hearts have had their chances this season.
Yeah,
But,
Yeah,
but
I've said
Okay.
already, our record against St Mirren, Livingston and Kilmarnock recently wasn't great. I mean, to not beat Livingston away from home was disappointing. To drop points in places we shouldn't have done was disappointing. I'm not going to deny that. But that decision last week, and I'm not going to go too far into it, but part of me can understand at the time when I saw it at first why the referee gave it, because Nicholson's hand is up. But you look at the projection of the ball and how far that goes. It's clearly not a handball. And I think, again, I don't want to be controversial because I don't want to be Michael Stewart and sitting in a truck somewhere probably getting banned from that. But I think, for me, it was such a big decision in a game. And John Beaton spent about 10 seconds looking at that. In a big decision like that. And I wonder if, because of what's happened to him recently, and again, I'll say this now, what's happened to him with the leaking of his stuff, I do not agree with that at all. There's a line you don't cross, and that was crossed. But I do wonder if the stick that he's had has played a part in that.
So we are 44 minutes into the show, and we're going to dive right into this, right? I'm going to open a can of worms on a Monday night because nothing happens on a Monday night. Let's face it, Reagan, right? Okay, so the controversy goes back to maybe last Wednesday night or before Christmas or whatever you want to say, right? Celtic got a penalty, right? I still believe it was a penalty, right? But what happened if Celtic missed that penalty? Would we be still talking about this
No.
a week after the game?
No, because
No,
it would have
no.
got taken. They'd have found a reason to give it a retake.
No,
Yeah,
No,
in fairness, I think there was encroachment from other male players, so you're probably right with that one. But no, I think obviously it's the immediacy of it that it happens so close to the end of the season and it's so big in the title race that it's obviously going to be talked about that bit more. And I think the sort of overall sort of, I don't know what you would say, the conversation about it was a little bit over the top and extreme and maybe helped lead to the abuse that the John Beatons went through and stuff like that. And obviously what he's went through is ridiculous. And
I'll put it another way, Ethan, right? So that you can't cross you, right? But it's important to get these points, like, because I've been listening to a lot of conspiracy theories and all that, right? So, see how if that penalty happened 10 minutes into the game, you would still not hear about it because Motherwell would have, 8 minutes to get back into the game. I know it's
I agree with you again, Michael.
Yeah.
I think it's just the timing of it, and it's really unfortunate. Some people will say that the referees should deserve the sort of criticism they've got because they haven't done their jobs properly. But I think it was completely blown out of proportion. But you know, it always was going to be. I think at this stage in the season, it's unfortunate that that's sort of what we're talking about now that the league season's over. And people after that were saying the likes of VR, we need to get rid of it and stuff like that. And I understand that football without VR is a lot better. I would say that it's a lot more enjoyable, but you know, Hearts would have won the league at the weekend if we didn't have VAR off an offside decision that was nowhere near to being offside. So, you know, I think that's why it showed why VAR's in. But over refereeing the games, the handball rule are all things that need to be looked at with it because I don't know, did they need to get involved with that decision at Fir Park? I don't actually know because I don't know.
Well,
I thought it could have been. I thought it was a penalty, but at the same sort of breath, I can understand why people think it shouldn't have been and why they shouldn't have got involved with it. So, yeah, it's unfortunate that this is what we're talking about, and we're also talking about pitch invasions and stuff like that because it's been an excellent season and we've had more eyes on Scottish football than I think ever before. But yeah, I think these things do need to be addressed, unfortunately, especially refereeing problem in this country.
I'll give you a worst time VAR wasn't used correctly, and Reagan will remember it. We missed a Partick Thistle earlier. It's when we played Thistle in the Cup at the Smizer. Do you remember the penalty that never got again on the
yes.
clearest of days handball? And that gets swiped under the carpet after the day. That is genuinely one of the worst decisions you will see by VAR. That was
what about the penalty that Swinburne got against Partick Thistle this season? Shocking.
Exactly. You don't hear about that. That they were in that game. That was two of the worst VAR decisions you'll see this season. Both of them were horrendous calls for the VAR officials. The fact that they gave the penalty, and then the fact that they missed a Stonewaller penalty as well, like that. And I get it. I get why penalties like last week and all that sort of stuff gets talked about more. It's just the nature of the game. But if you're talking about really bad VAR decisions, and Reagan will back me up, that's two of the worst ones you're going to see.
Oh, it is. Aye.
Well, I'll take your St Mirren one and raise you. This is why I get frustrated. That decision on Wednesday, I don't think it's a penalty, but that's just biased. But Motherwell Hearts last week, when Kisarides is quite clearly fouled by Maswinisi, the guy on VAR does the right thing and says, stop the play, calls the referee to the monitor. I don't remember a time this season where a referee has gone to the monitor and not changed his decision, but it then was proved. It was proved because Willie Collins said that was wrong. That's where the frustration comes in. How can you go to a monitor and then say it's not a penalty? And he even admitted to McInnes there was contact, but not enough. But there's still contact. You've just admitted that. That's where my frustration comes in with that, because that was a penalty. Now, of course, we could have missed it. But if we score that, go 2-1 and win the game, it's a very different scenario. So that's where my frustration comes in.
And I think that's a great point to make, because I think that's a more agreed on decision than the handball one. I think almost everyone I've seen give an opinion on that sort of Maswinisi and Kisarides one thinks it's a penalty. So yeah, but obviously it's not the one that is sort of taking the big headlines, maybe because it happened a match before and it's not as close then, maybe because it didn't happen in the last minute of a game. But yeah, I think it's unfortunate that it's what's grabbing the headlines and what's been a great season. But I think the referees in this country, and probably in every football country, and in certain periods always grab the headlines for the decisions they make, because never can everyone be pleased or agree on the decision, and that's just the way football is and always will be. But that's not to say that I think that there doesn't need to be improvements, because I think there does be.
There is a reason why there is not one Scottish official World Cup, because they're terrible, and I've said that all season.
I do think it was a penalty for Hearts last week for Park game.
Yeah,
I don't think.
I think Stevie Wonder could see that, but for some reason Stephen McLean couldn't.
Yeah, all right, maybe it's difficult for you because you had your Hearts glasses on at the time, and you might have your skill specs on now as well. But I think why I never gave it was because Kisarides rolled about 15 times on the deck.
If you get your foot stood on by studs, it's gonna hurt.
But it wasn't that. Aye, okay.
It went down like it
shouldn't matter though. It shouldn't matter what Kisarides' reaction is, because ultimately it looks like there's contact.
Yeah.
Maswinisi gets nowhere near the ball and he stops Kisarides getting to it. So I think it's a clear penalty. And
it is a clear penalty, but the way he reacts does him no favours at all.
No, it doesn't.
If he didn't have that reaction, Robbie, it was a penalty.
It should have been a penalty either way.
Yeah.
Look at Kilmarnock against Hearts as a prime example, right? Claudio Braga is fouled, doesn't go down, doesn't get a penalty, and everyone said if he goes down, it's a penalty. It doesn't matter if there's how much contact there is. If there's contact, it's a foul. It doesn't matter how much contact there is.
Can I bring this back to like a general point, right? We all we spoke nearly every single show this season about bad VAR calls, about bad officiating. We know how powerful fans can be. Why is every group of fans not setting up some sort of petition or some sort of rally to clear VAR? Mike, I know you're sort of pulling that face there. What are you talking about? But we know the power of fans. But why should see the money we as fans pay into clubs? Why should we be allowing VAR to continue doing that sort of stuff?
No, I know
VAR's
what you
not. I
mean.
don't think VAR is the problem though. It's the referees.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it's the referee. Yeah, but
But listen. That why I'm putting faces, Robbie, is I would like to see it happen tomorrow, right? But if we can get rid of it by the beginning of next season, what it won't happen now at Celtic stay. I think VR set a precedent now, right? So if VR goes out the game tomorrow, then we'll say if you go along to a St Mirren game next season, you would say, oh well, if VR was in, that was a penalty.
yeah, but I
Yeah,
personally wouldn't. I would honestly rather, right, Ethan, and I agree with you. I think it is the officials more than VR. I mean, it is the officials more than VR, right? But I would rather have a world in we live in that I can go to a game and rely solely on the referees, and I'd be fine if they miss something because I know that's human nature rather than the penalties that we're talking about where VAR don't give them, even though they're having second looks at them. That would just be my opinion.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying because without VR, you probably get the same amount of errors, but you also get you don't have a doubt that something's going to get ruled out or something like that. But at the same time, the point I mentioned, Celtic, when I got that perfectly fair goal.
And Hearts would have won the league.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Hearts would have won the league, and then the story would have been Hearts win the league because of controversial decision, and that's never a way you want to win a league title.
It's a literally an infinite loop.
I don't think there's any way to win in this conversation, unfortunately. But it could be better.
I was talking to a Celtic Bristol fan on for Thursday. He said to me,
"Of course you were."
He
said that he doesn't want to go up because VR then basically there's so much money, and also the fact that VR makes so many wrong calls. So actually fans don't want to go up just because of VR as well.
But think about the finances.
One thing I don't like is, particularly Scottish Cups and stuff, is that some games have VAR and some don't. For Scottish Cup games, you all have it or you all don't. Yeah. It shouldn't be one rule for one for the other. I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah, and by the way, not to try and take too much away. Sorry, Michael, but in there, but not to take too much away for the general fan point of view on VAR. But look at the financial side. Livingston just get relegated. They're going to lose a ton of money for different sort of outlets. VAR's expensive enough. Never mind taking into the account all the rest of the finances that clubs are paying for.
Did they then take it away for a season?
Well, yeah, the Championship doesn't have VAR, so they'll not be using it next season. But that's what I mean. Like they've paid for it at the start of the season. Got whatever other finances. Clubs like Livingston, unfortunately for them, struggle enough without getting relegated and losing even more money based on like all from ticket allocations and all the rest of it. Like they lose a significant amount of money as it is. Never mind having to pay for VAR.
I mean, the point that Graham makes is a good point because obviously, I don't know if they use VR in FA Cup in England. I'm not sure, but like, what you should use VR or don't use it, or maybe keep it to the semi-finals so that you've got the semi-final and final, but not like the earlier rounds. And plus, going back to Robbie's point early on about like. If Celtic were playing St Mirren at the Smythe Stadium, now teams can't afford VR and kind of like cup games.
I 100% agree. Like, I imagine we go to a scenario where, let's just say, flash your mind back to the Darvo Aberdeen game. Imagine Aberdeen went right, we went VR that game like Darvo, and obviously it wouldn't happen. But like situations like that, it just makes you think. Like Livingston, like I keep going back to the Livingston one, it's the best example. Livingston are losing out on so much money, gone down enough as it is. Never mind having to pay for VAR this season. You know their financial report is probably going to look quite damning on the club, to be honest with you, because it's going to read horrific. You know, they're spending, you know, think about the wage decrease it's going to take on players, everything that takes into account running a club. Then you need to spend a quarter, 300 grand on VAR every season. It just, for me, it's the clubs that should be complaining about it.
Well, for you, obviously, Robbie, I hope for your sake that St Mirren don't go down. But if Partick's come up, they're going to have to get VAR installed. And again, talk about money. That's going to cost a lot of money for that.
I can't remember. VR involved in the playoff final, Robbie?
Yes.
Yes, VR will be installed in for Hull as well as the Smiler
Aye.
Stadium.
Oh,
I don't think that's right.
Aye, because I was reading John Beaton's on VR for one of the games, so I thought that was quite fun.
oh, that's a bit different.
Okay, so we spoke about VR, we spoke about a brilliant season. Let's speak about the ugly side of the game on Saturday. We're not going to talk about what happened elsewhere in the city centre because it is a football show. So we're just going to stick to the football. What happened inside the stadium? It was a total embarrassment. Ethan, I know you and Reagan was at the game. We'll get Reagan's kind of take on in a minute, but it was just so sad after a brilliant season that we had to have a number of fans coming on to the park. I know we need to watch what we're saying because I think it's a kind of legal issue and all that kind of thing now, and I know that myself. But it shouldn't happen in football.
No, it shouldn't. And I think pitch invasions of the past and in some scenarios have been brilliant things to watch. Fans connecting with their own players to celebrate excellent achievements. And I think for the most people, the large percentages of the Celtic fans that did go onto the pitch, I think that was probably their ambitions to go and celebrate with their players and champion the moment of winning the league title. But unfortunately, like most things, these pitch invasions need to be sort of condemned because there is a small minority that go to try and wind up Hearts players, which is crazy to me because I don't understand it. Why, when your club that you supported has just won the league title, that your first initial reaction is to go up and either wind up a Hearts player verbally or physically. And you know, when I seen the players, the fans pouring onto the pitch, I actually worried for what was going to happen to the Hearts players, especially. And fortunately, from what I've seen, there doesn't seem to be anything sort of too serious. But in the same breath, it shouldn't happen. The Hearts players shouldn't be put in the situation where there's thousands, maybe thousands. I don't know how many Celtic fans were on the pitch. Certainly hundreds. I'd imagine probably close to 1,000 at least on the pitch. They shouldn't be made to feel unsafe in their workplace. And unfortunately, Hearts felt they had to, in their statement, they felt they had to leave the stadium and they didn't get the proper send-off they deserved from the Hearts supporters, which had travelled to the game and supported them all season, because they did deserve that. And dare I say, there'd probably be a minority of Celtic fans that even wanted to sort of give them an ovation and congratulate them for what they had achieved this season. But obviously, they're not. They don't get the chance to do that, and that's a chance that they'll never get again for this season. So yeah, really unfortunate, and hopefully no one was hurt. I don't think anyone was sort of too seriously injured from what I've seen so far. And I hope that's the case because we don't want these things grabbing the headlines of what's been an excellent season for Scottish football.
By the way, before we get the other guys' thoughts on the game, Reagan was at the game. I think it's quite. I think it's important to highlight the thing that you told me on the phone when we were talking earlier on, and when you spoke about 10 minutes ago, because there's a health and safety issue to this as well. So I don't know if you want to tell people like where you sit at the game and all that, and how people like climbed over the top of you got on the park.
I know I'm sitting at the halfway line in the stadium, and people were jumping on from behind me, trying to get on the pitch. And I mean, I can totally understand people are very happy that Celtic won, and so was I. But I just thought it was really strange. I know the majority of them were sort of children and people in their 20s, but I just thought it was strange. I just felt like that sort of tarnished a very good day, to be honest with you guys. Because
Graham, Robbie, you were watching the game on the TV. How did you get look to you, watching back home?
Graham, I'll let you go first if you want.
There's been a lot of pitch invasions this season for people just getting 3 points. I understand Celtic fans going on the pitch. They're at home, they've won the title. I have no issue with that. But pretty much everything that Ethan said is absolutely spot on. Why would you go on a park after a win like that and goad the Hearts players? Just go on and celebrate with your own team. And it is a place of work for these players. You know, the Hearts players are there to do a job. And I think the biggest thing for me is that Derek McInnes wasn't able to go out. Him and the players weren't able to go across to those fans and applaud them for what a season has been. The fans weren't able to reciprocate that. Derek McInnes wasn't able to do pre-match interviews for Hearts TV or Sky. They just had to get back on the bus in their Heart strips and get back home where they got a really good ovation. But I think something's got to have to be done about these pitch invasions because they happen quite a lot this season. And you don't know what anyone in that park is carrying in their pocket. It could be anything. Now, there's been a few pictures I've seen of like people going up to Lauren Shanklin and stuff, and I know that Hearts players are protecting each other, which is great to see, you know, the camaraderie there. But at some point, someone's going to get seriously hurt in all this. And you talk about health and safety. These are players on a park doing a job. And at some point, my fear is that someone's going to get seriously hurt here. Because you've no idea when a person goes on that park, what they're carrying, what they've got. You look at the Celtic Rangers game weeks and weeks ago. Again, that was another potential disaster. This wasn't maybe quite in that element, but again, people coming on the park, it needs to stop. Something's going to have to happen with this because I would seriously worry that something serious could happen. And then what happens if it does? Then what happens?
Yeah. But by the way, before I come to you, Robbie, what I was hoping for Reagan to see, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, Reagan, but Reagan's in a wheelchair, so he actually sits at the front of the park. So that's what I was trying to not make Reagan say, but in the kind of way. So that's what I was meaning by health and safety, Graham.
No, I completely get that. I mean, listen, obviously Reagan's in the ground, and fair play to him. And you know, it kind of be nice to have that. I mean, I actually thought Reagan actually started it, but clearly not.
Not with the media.
Looks scouty. Looks scouty.
Yeah. Nothing to do with me. I was enjoying my pie.
No. I was going to say something, but I can't actually remember what it was going to be. It was something to do with the pitch invasion, obviously, and I think it was that when the emotions are so high for both the fans and the players, and I think I've seen some people criticising how some of the Hearts players have dealt with certain things, and I don't think you can criticise the Hearts players because they are in where they should be. The Celtic fans aren't, and the emotions are just as high for the players as if not higher, for the players than they are for the supporters. So you can't put yourself in the shoes of those Hearts players and the disappointment that they were suffering and the immediate reaction to conceding the goal when they knew they were not going to win the league title. To go up to them, then it would probably take the I don't know, just the littlest of sort of winding up to really frustrate them, and you completely understand the frustration that some of them shown, but most of the time it was just protecting their teammates, which Graham said was nice to see. And as I said, I'm just glad that the pitch invasions at Ibrox a few months back now, I think that largely no one was hurt, although there is always potential that someone is going to be, and that's why we need to step in and eradicate these sort of issues before it does get to that point.
Robbie?
I think you obviously look back to what happened during the Prague derby earlier in the week before the game. I sort of worried that similar events would unfortunately unfold, and it wasn't to that extreme, to be fair, but it was about as close as you're going to get in terms of a pitch invasion. I think when you look at what happened with John Beaton and the disgusting things that he and his family had to go through only a week prior, I don't think we're a million miles away from some sort of strike for bodies within football. I don't think we're a million miles away from referees putting a stop to this themselves. You know, they're only part-time. Why should John Beaton have to go through something like that? Ever, why should any players in the workplace have to go through it? Like, I imagine you guys were working in your work and crowds of people just started gathering around you and laughing at you, and you know, as stupid as it sounds, it is literally that. Down to the principle, they're football players, that's their place of work. You should never step on the pitch, and if you're going to do it in a respectful manner. I remember in 2017-18 when someone won the championship, me and my dad ran on the pitch the minute the game ended, and that was against our rivals, Morton. And there's never any harm of intent. You never want to run on the pitch to intimidate Morton players. You're running on the pitch to celebrate, and I think that's the way majority of Celtic fans should have took it, or did take it. Sorry, but the biggest thing I took for this, guys, is we're not a million miles away from football players or football officials or football people taking a stand to this and saying, "Look, enough's enough. I'm not safe to come to my work." Like, imagine you were working in a place where you didn't feel safe. You wouldn't go. You wouldn't do your job because you're not feeling that safety that you should be in your workplace. So, I was the minority really did disrupt it, and I think Graham and Ethan are spot on. Something needs to happen. What needs to happen? I don't know, because I don't make the rules. I don't deal with that. But something needs to happen to sort of try and calm this down, because you seen what happened in the Prague derby earlier in the week, and something like that's not a million miles off of happening here, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Can I just say something, guys? Right, I know we're on about pitch invasions and all that, and the SFA should do more, and the government should do more, but obviously it's SFA, and but what about that Dundee fan last season, 9 years old, nearly took his eye out, and stuff like that? I haven't heard any more about that and stuff like that. So what I mean is, Graham, since it's happened over the years, and well, maybe this is a bit unfair for me to say this, swept under the carpet and nothing's to be done again.
Yeah, but I think they probably have to do something this time because it is such a high-profile thing. You know, our time base, what happened. I heard a Hearts fan, a prominent Hearts fan actually, on a radio show earlier on today, saying that he couldn't say too much, but there's stuff going on behind the scenes. I don't know what, but I think something's going to have to happen after this. What it is, I genuinely don't know, but something needs to be done because the pitch invasions are happening too often. Like, as I say, I completely get Celtic fans coming on the pitch. They've won the title. But too many times this season, fans have come on the pitch after like a last-minute goal for a 1-0 win. What's the point? Like, you've not won anything. You're not won a trophy. What's the point? It's going to get to a stage now where I genuinely worry that something serious is going to happen. You know, Hearts players have every right to defend themselves. If someone comes up to them to have a go at them, they don't know what's going to happen. So I think the Hearts players got every right to have a go at them. And I will say as well this, before I say anything else, but I saw a lot of people saying that like the game wasn't finished and it was abandoning stuff and Hearts should get 3 points. I completely disagree with that. You know, that's just not going to happen. That's just ridiculous. And I don't want to win a title that way. But something has to happen to stop these pitch invasions because it's getting to a point now that you should not be a player on a park worried for what could happen. It's ridiculous.
Okay, we'll see what happens about that in the coming weeks if anything happens. Don't hold your breath too much, because it might not happen. Let's go on to the other games then before we finish up. Couple of games to talk about on the Saturday. Of course, well done to Celtic winning the league. Well done to Hearts for sticking right in there till maybe the second half. Something to build on for next season for Derek McInnes and the side. Let's go to the Falkirk Stadium. Ethan, I don't know if you saw any of the highlight for this game. Falkirk 2, Rangers 5.
Yeah, another crazy game between these two teams at the Falkirk Stadium. 2 goals short of that 9-goal thriller a few weeks ago. And a big win for Rangers and Danny Rowe. And I think it maybe shows that the Rangers players are still playing for their manager. They're not down in tools. And despite Diego Gassama, his celebration in support of the captain, James Tavernier, who obviously wasn't involved, as we found out the situation on Wednesday night, and we got more on that when James Tavernier uploaded a post to Instagram. I think it shows that the players can both be in support of their captain and their manager, and that can coexist despite the sort of disagreements that have happened behind the scenes. And I don't know if any of you have seen it, but there's a few sources reporting that Danny Rose said to, I think it was the chief executive at Rangers, that he needed more leaders in that squad after they were beat by Hearts at Tynecastle. So, I think Rangers are going to go at it again, obviously next season. But a good win for Rangers to end the campaign, but ultimately doesn't mean too much. Yusuf Chermiti showing again, I think that he has got qualities to prove he's worth that fee that Rangers spent on him. He just needs to be a little bit more consistent. But good win for Rangers, and disappointing end for Falkirk, obviously, but a good season on the whole.
Yep, disappointing end to a season, but Falkirk could be proud of a season. Graham coming back up in top 6.
Yeah, they've been fantastic. I think most teams, when they come up from the Championship, they can aim is to stay up. I always thought they would. You know, they've got a very good manager there whose stock has probably never been higher. The likes of Barney Stewart's been fantastic. I know we'll talk about Scotland later. Calvin Miller's been excellent. You've got guys like Dylan Tate. They've had a fantastic season. I mean, what is that? 16 goals now in the last 2 Falkirk Rangers games. That's mental. But what a season they've had. And again, they can now build on that next season. You know, I'm sure they'll probably strengthen in the summer. They might lose a few players, but they'll strengthen again. And I just think they'll keep getting better. I mean, they've been a fantastic season. But the one thing I would ask, though, is for you guys' opinion on this. What is your thoughts on the whole James Tavernier thing and the whole situation there? Because obviously a lot of Rangers fans are thinking he might leave. A lot of people are saying that he could stay. The fact he wasn't starting, of course, as we know. I think Tavernier's been a really good servant for Rangers, and I think if he is going to go out, it's not the way we want it to go.
I think it's disgusting the way Danny Rose treated Tavernier, and I said that the moment it dropped on the show. We were actually live, me, Ethan and Michael, I think, when that announcement broke, and as it sort of trickled on, I am completely with Tavernier on this situation, in my opinion. Such a great servant to Rangers, 11 years in post, and that's the way the manager's treating them. And look, there's a lot of different things. Like we know German managers and sort of the more foreign type of managers tend to be a bit more stubborn with their team selections and a bit more stubborn with the way they particularly talk in Scotland. And you know, that's just their nature. That's the way they've sort of been brought into coaching. But I don't think Danny Rowe realised at the time just how big a servant Tavernier was to that club. I mean, there's pictures of the guys on the wall. He's been there for so long. He deserved that send-off at Ibrox for him and his family's sake. And whether there was a bit of miscommunication between the club, Danny Rowe and the player, but we'll never know, because that's just the nature of football. One side seems to swing it one way, one seems to swing it the other. So you just don't know. But if I was bang end in that fight, I'd say Tavernier probably get misfairly treated in that situation. Should have been allowed to walk out, even if it was just for 2 minutes, and then subbed him off. You know, even just that would have, for me, been enough for the guy. But no, the fact they chose to drop him was, for me, unacceptable, and I think any Rangers fan has the right to be angry at him for it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was right a sag into you know, he's been a great servant for Rangers over the years, Graham, and to see that coming to an end, and you know, and I was just kind of like sad to see, and I think he got emotional when they took to the park before the game on Wednesday night, or maybe at halftime. I can't remember. I don't know if you guys saw the video online about it. John Gregg kind of like it was a presentation of him, but yeah, I saw the end. But I suppose that football at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I know a lot of folk will say, "Oh, but he's not won a lot of Rangers," but that's not down to Tavernier. You know, he's not had he's not had a lot of particularly great teammates around him. You know, one man doesn't win you titles and stuff. He's got to have better players around him, and he's not really had that. I think it's a sad end to him. You know, I know a lot of folk talk about his defensive side of the game, but what he's given Rangers attacking wise, he's been a fantastic servant. And if it is the end for him, it's a really sad way to go out. You know, it's not the way we would want it to go, especially that last game at Ibrox to not be included was really poor for me, for Danny Rowe. And I think I'm not convinced by Danny Rowe. You know, again, I know he came in and did a decent job at the start, but I'm just not convinced by him. You know, again, I talk about the fact I think Hearts have now been stronger. I don't know how he makes Rangers better, to be honest.
Running out of things to say about Falkirk again. Robbie, we say it every week. I say it every week as well. But I mean, they should be very proud of what they've achieved this season. Okay, they get beat in the semi-final against Confirming, but it was a big achievement for them to get to the semi-final and something to build on again for next season.
Just unfortunately for Falkirk, and according to David in the chat, Graham will be getting his hands on wee bonus shirt next season, so I'm sure they'll be disappointed losing him. I'd actually see he had a couple bids rejected for West Bromwich Albion down south, so wonder if he is going to be moving out of Falkirk, which is of course a huge miss for them. But what a job Michael John McGlynn's done. I mean, we say it all the time, that must be the most underappreciated manager in the country. He's got to be. The work that he's done for Falkirk in every way, you know, it reminds me of the sort of videos that you see in a David Martindale where like people Livingston used to say he'd done literally every job. Like that's what I can imagine John McGlynn's like. I can imagine he loves doing everything for that club. And the fact that he's got them to a point he has is just magnificent, to be honest with you. And they're such a pleasure to watch at times as well. You know, they don't do the most exciting stuff and they don't do the most outlandish and you know, sort of out there stuff, but the basics they do so well, and that's what's so good to watch about them. So I hope it keeps continuing for them because they're a great club to watch. They're a proper community club as well. So I wish clubs like that nothing but the best, and hopefully they can maybe make a wee push on to Europe next season.
Yep, and moving on to your biggest rivals, Graham. Hibs now Motherwell won, but I think Hibs were delighted what happened elsewhere on Saturday, and they weren't focused on that.
You had to remind them, Michael. You had to remind them.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, so it's all part of the service.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's all Hibs fans have. Their success is Hearts' failure. They spent the last few weeks waiting for Hearts to lose it, but at least we were up there to lose it, and they can't even get European football now. So, what a shame. But yeah, I mean, they've had a decent season. I think David Gray's done a decent job. I did see as well that I think Martin Boyle did a U-turn and he's not leaving now. I think he signed a new 1-year contract. So that's probably a decent for them. But, you know, to go out at home to Motherwell, and again, what a season Motherwell have had, honestly. At one point, looked like they could be challenging for the title, but just fell off a little bit. But listen, fair play to Hibs. They're going to finish. They finished 5th. I think they will, again, they'll probably strengthen again next season. They'll hope to try and go back a bit stronger. Again, I talked about this months ago. A lot of Hibs fans wanted David Gray sacked, but I think it's because how well Hearts were doing. There's no danger of that. But I think he will come back stronger. And the fact that Boyle signed that new 1-year deal is probably a good thing for them. And I'll be interested to see what they do in the summer, who they bring in, who potentially goes. And yeah, I think they could have a decent season next season again. But as long as they finish below Hearts, that's the main thing.
Well, look, Hibs didn't win nothing, Graham. They won this singing Celtic songs. It's his Ibrox award. You know what I mean? They at least get something under their belt.
Robbie, let's go from the high bees to the well boys. They done well. So that I didn't mean to say that. They did well. Well, yeah. Well, I'm a bit lost now. How can I get out of here? But no, they did well this season, and they finished off well on Saturday.
Aye, they did. And it's been an absolutely phenomenal season for Motherwell and Jens and every player. And they're getting not to be that guy, Michael, but they're getting the just reward because Elijah Just is obviously heading to the States and Mexico and Canada for the World Cup. So he fully deserves that after the season he's had. You know how big a fan I'm of Justin. I'm sure for the shows and Player of the Years and all that shenanigans, you know who I'll be picking in mind. But unfortunately for Motherwell, I don't see this lasting because they're going to lose Jens and they're going to lose guys like Masfinissi and Justin. It's so difficult to keep them for a club like Motherwell that if they can keep guys like Jens for another season, which I don't personally think they will, but if they can and they can keep that gel together, then what an outfit Motherwell could be next season when they're proper free-flowing and they're proper get a group of players. But unfortunately, as I figured out earlier this season, fairy tales don't last forever, and I think the Motherwell one's going to come crashing down pretty quickly. But who's to say they won't just sign another Jens and another guy that kicks on and bees like him? Who knows? But nah, I think the Jens fairy tales come to an end for them, but they can hold their hands up and say what a fantastic achievement of this season it's been.
Okay, let's jump into the bottom six yesterday, and there was some good rubber games yesterday, Robbie, but they were actually quite entertaining, especially the one at Dundee 3, Aberdeen 2.
Aye, I hope Robinson had a good Sunday evening and he says after that one, but no, it was. I think every game was obviously a deed rubber because nobody could really change where they sat in the table. I think there was two deed rubbers in the last, to be honest with you. I think Dundee and Aberdeen ended up being a pretty good game for the sort of bits I've seen. Of course, Olasanya scoring again. The guy but only seems to score tap-ins. It's really weird. I don't think I've seen him since he actually joined Aberdeen score a goal that wasn't a tap-in, but look, you've got to be there to score them. But I think that game probably showed that Aberdeen have got a lot of work to do in the summer under Robinson. A lot of players they need to maybe shift on, a lot they need to bring in. It's going to be a proper transition, but I don't want to speak about Aberdeen too much because I'm here to talk about Dundee and the achievement they've had, Michael. I mean, I was at the event on a Saturday night and Gordon Strachan was in. I actually didn't learn until he was speaking that Gordon Strachan actually used to is still involved in Dundee right now in some capacity. I'm not too sure what the role is that he's doing, but I think he's working with our youth players, and he commented on what a guy Stephen Presley is. His attitude never changes. He's always the same, win, lose or draw, and I think that's taking a good effect on the players. The players love playing under him. All the times this season, he's had so many down moments, so many injuries. He keeps on fighting, and he's done a terrific job with Dundee to finish not only outside the relegation zone, but finish above Aberdeen as well. And that's the sort of big. That was the sort of big ambition. Of course, there were 3 points after their City rivals, but it's really big positives to take. And as Paul said, Aberdeen, they have a lot of players on long contracts. But I think Paul will be a big sum in terms of recruitment. Just to sort of touch on the other game before we get into Simon, because I didn't see much of it. As my former co-host partner there puts in a wee comment to try and rile up Graham.
That wasn't my idea, by the way.
I was just going to say that's not Graham's house he's in.
Obviously, Livy losing 4-1 to Kilmarnock, they go in a sort of sorrow state, but I mean, Kilmarnock under Neil McCann, another manager that seems to have done well. I think we could be shaking him up, albeit as long as St Mirren stay up. In the next week, we could be looking at a very, very good Premiership. Even if St Mirren were to go down Partick Thistle, we got. I mean, you'd be looking at an absolute stormer of a Premiership season. You'd have St Johnstone and Partick potentially, or St Mirren, obviously up, and Livy and one either or done. So you're looking at a very, very good season next year where, let's be honest, you don't really know where MD's going to finish. I couldn't say for certain who's going to win the league. I couldn't say for certain who's going to finish bottom. It's going to be a pretty nice season next season. But it was a good end to the season for Kilmarnock. Joe Hugo, who obviously leave his loan spell. Finlay Curtis will also leave his loan spell. So it's two big players they're missing. But Neil McCann's done a good job as well.
Graham, Kilmarnock, as Robbie said, Neil McCann's done a decent job.
He has, and I have to give him credit because I didn't think it would work when he came in. I thought, I'm not really sure about that, but he's done a really good job. He's got them out of it, which is what he was there for. I think Finlay Curtis has been outstanding. I mean, what a player he's been. I've seen a few Rangers fans gutted that he wasn't at Rangers. They could have done with a guy like him. And hopefully, when that Scotland's closing is tomorrow, he'll be in it. But yeah, I think fair play to Neil McCann. They're going to have to try and build in the summer to try and not be in that position again. Going to be difficult, but do you know what? Fair play to McCann. He's done a fantastic job. He's kept them to safety, and they just have to now try and build on that for next season. But it'll be very, very difficult because they may, again, lose a few players as well.
Okay, just a few shows to go before the end of our season, and then we'll be back again in When is it? The June because I believe Scotland's going to the World Cup. I think they're going to win it. But anyway, we'll be back on first at 6:30.
Are you that David in the chat?
What's that?
Are you David for the chat? For the type of opinions?
Yeah, he's my brother. Michael Scott, my name is. We'll be back on Thursday, but before we go, Skibby Crack picks the squad for the winning cup. The winning cup, the World Cup squad for Scotland, and so Graham, I'll come at you first. There's a lot of players I would like to see in the squad, but it's a big question: will we pick them?
Your guess is I don't think we'll see any real surprises. I mean, obviously, the one for me would have been Craig Halkett if he'd done his Achilles. I'd like to see Finlay Curtis in it. I think he deserves a chance. I think Ross Stewart from Southampton deserves a chance. I don't know Barney Stewart. I'd like to see him in it, but again, I don't know if he'll do that. So I think I'm not expecting too many surprises, but I hope he does something different. You know, the one thing I think we do lack is if Ben Gannon Doak isn't firing or if he's on form, we don't have a lot of options out wide, which is why I really hope that Finlay Curtis is available and he will start. Again, I'd love to have seen Harvey Barnes in it, but that's not going to happen. So, yeah, I'm not probably expecting too many shocks. But you never know. He might surprise us all. He might not pick Grant Hanley, but I doubt it.
Dan Hanley's the first name in the team sheet. I don't know what you're talking about.
What about you?
No, I'd agree with Graham. Obviously, my commiserations go out to Craig Halkett and Tommy Conway, who both will now confirm they'll be making the World Cup. Tommy's had a decent season down in England, to be fair. Probably would have get called up because he's always sort of been drifting in out of the team. But unfortunately for him, he's done himself with an injury. So he'll be making it. And of course, Craig Halkett, who's Graham mentioned, been so vital to Hearts. But I just hope Finlay Curtis gets that call up. He's such a phenomenal player to watch, and I'd genuinely be buzzing watching him at the World Cup. I think, Graham, you're right. There's not enough in the width to really challenge teams and threat teams if it's not working. You know, you mentioned Ben Gannon Doak. For all that, I love the guy, and I think he'll be a really big future for Scotland if we can keep him fit. If he's not doing it after 60 minutes, we've got nothing to replace out there. So it's going to be a bit of a headache for Steve, but I'm sure it'll pretty much be the same team. Can't wait to watch Forza, Tony Ralston at right back caught up at the World Cup one last time before he inevitably gets strapped for Scotland. I can't wait for that. But no, it'll be a good. I still think it'll be a good World Cup. I can't wait for it to start, Michael. It doesn't, it's not going to feel long between the season finishing, the World Cup starting, especially when my team's still got two games to play before it.
I know you'll do shows in the build up to the World Cup and stuff, but I honestly see that Haiti game on the Sunday. See if he does to start Lawrence Shankland up front. I can't be doing with Lyndon Dykes or Che Adams up front in that game when Lawrence Shankland scored 20 goals this season. Just don't do it to me. But I know he will.
Can't wait for Lyndon Dykes to hit 0 shots against Haiti in 90 minutes. It's going to be a glorious watch. But
one of them coming off of somebody's backside.
I'll take it if it means we go out the group.
So that's about it. Yes.
The Brazil team was announced, and I know that Neymar's in it.
Aye, but he was only good in 2014, so it's all right. We don't need to worry about him anymore. I'm sure Tony Ralston will pocket him.
So we'll be back on Thursday at 6:30 for the big build up for the game packet for against St Mirren, and then we'll be back on the Friday for the Scottish Cup final. Before we
Sorry,
go,
Michael.
No, I was just going to say, before we finish up tonight, Robbie's got about sad news to bring us.
I don't like bringing sad news often on the show, but Michael, we all know firsthand what it's like having people that work backstage and don't particularly show face on the shows and do a lot of work behind the scenes and help the podcast sort of run and the shows run. And all the sort of rest of it, we know the work we put in. And obviously, Robbo's been commenting in the chat. That's my former podcast partner for the old podcast we used to do. And there used to be a boy called Sean that would help a lot backstage. I used to do all the production stuff. I remember the first ever live show we done actually at Robbo's house for we were live reacting to some wrestling event, and it was absolutely boiling, but he sort of kept the show running. Unfortunately, we lost him a year ago, and it's a year ago to the day that we lost him. So I just sort of wanted to bring light to that. Sean was a massive football fan, like all us, and I know we've had a season of coming on the show and talking about VAR decisions, referee controversy, goals, and all the rest of it. But I think it's not until you get to the end of the season, it was like the game on Saturday when, you know, you realise just how many people that you've lost throughout the whole season. And I just sort of thought I'd sort of dedicate that to him, because he played such a big part in keeping the podcast going. I don't think people realise how many people work backstage tirelessly to get shows like this running, even just shows like ours, you know. And it's something so big, so I thought I'd bring that to light and just sort of dedicate this to Sean.
Fair play to Robbie for doing that. I mean, honestly, I know Michael says this all the time, but honestly, guys, if you watch this, go and get folk to subscribe to the channel. It's a fantastic job that these guys do. Not just Robbie, not just Michael. You know, I've been doing the show for a long time. Maybe not as much as I did before, but these guys are fantastic what they do. It's always a fantastic show. So go and go and subscribe, go and watch the channel. If you've got friends that like football, then go and get them to subscribe, because it's such a fantastic channel. And the work that these guys do, the work that goes into this, is nothing short of fantastic. And just one final thing as well, talking about tribute, I do as well want to say Scottish rugby lost an absolute legend in Scott Hastings as well. What a player he was. Yeah. So massive respect and massive shout out to Scott's friends and family. He was a fantastic player, and he'll be a very, very sad loss to Scottish rugby.
You're watching the Scottish Football Zone with all the build-up and reactions.